A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, a brand Tangsu released an IEM that shook the budget IEM market. And of course, I'm talking about the Tangsu 1-er, a $19 mid-centric IEM that till this day remains one of the top recommendations for anyone entering the hobby. And now, we have the sequel, the 1-er 2. Is it better than the original 1-er? Is it worse? Should you buy it? Let's find out. Hey friends, welcome back to another video on TimTune. Today we have a review. Yes, finally, I'm doing reviews again of the 1-er 2 by Tangsu. Now, the sound of this versus the original is quite interesting. My unit has a bit more treble than the original 1-er. And looking at a lot of other people's graph, you can see that a lot of units does have more treble than the original 1-er. But there are some units that graph pretty much identical to the original 1-er. One thing to note though is that there are no units of the 1-er 2 that graph with less treble than the original 1-er yet. So the conclusion that can be drawn from this is that if you buy the 1-er 2, chances are you're gonna get either something that sounds identical to the 1-er, or you're gonna get something that sounds slightly bit brighter than the original 1-er, or with details that is a bit more forward and apparent than the original 1-er. In any case though, both of them will sound great for the price, because the price of this is somewhere in the middle $20 depending on the configuration that you go for. And for that price, either tuning sound fantastic, absolutely worth the money. And on top of it sounding great, it also has Sankai tips that on their own cost $12. So yeah, amazing value. So should you buy the 1-er 2 based off of everything I just said? Well, it depends. If you already own the original 1-er, there's really not a lot of reasons to upgrade aside from the fact that maybe you want better cable, you want the ear tips, basically quality of life upgrades. But if you don't care about any of that, all you care about is the sound, then the original 1-er is still just as good. You really don't need to buy the 1-er 2. But if you don't own a 1-er yet and you like the vocal-centric kind of sound that the 1-er can offer, the 1-er 2 is the obvious better choice to go for, because again, the quality of life upgrades while not really sacrificing what made the original 1-er great to begin with. However, if you were to ask me which one I personally prefer between the original 1-er and 1-er 2, I would say that I prefer the original 1-er, and it's not because of the sound, it's because of the fit. For me, the 1-er fits me better. The 1-er 2's cable, like the hook part for me, is a little bit too stiff. It would work with a lot of people's ears. It should fit better. It's not as angular as the original 1-er, and the cable feel is much better. But just because of how stiff the hook is on this, it didn't really fit my ears. Like I couldn't get consistent seal with this as I could with the original 1-er. Timmy, what about the 1-er Studio Edition? What do you think of that one? Well, it kind of doesn't matter what I think about it because it's already discontinued. And speaking of discontinuation, these Sankai tips that comes with the 1-er 2 might also be discontinued soon. At least that's the rumor I heard, because they just launched the Sankai Noble ear tips that might be replacing the Sankais. Now for the comparison, 1-er versus the rest of its alternative, like the 02, the Chu 2, and the Gate. Now versus the 02, the 02 is more of a well-rounder, neutral bass boost, slightly bit V-shaped kind of IEM. You really cannot go wrong with the 02. But that being said, it is just that. It is an all-rounder IEM. If you don't know what kind of sound signature you like, the 02 is a very safe option. But if you already know that you like a more vocal-centric kind of signature, then the 1-er 2 under $30 is pretty much the only option. Versus the Chu 2, the Chu 2 is more of an obvious V-shaped kind of IEM. So if you like a more contrasty, more exciting sound, the Chu 2 is a good option. Also, if you want something that is not built like a budget IEM, the Chu 2 is metal. So there's that as well. Now versus the Truth Ear Gate. The Gate and the 1-er 2 are both vocal-centric IEMs, but they do this tuning quite differently. The 1-er 2 has vocals that feels more full and lush, whereas the gate feels more lively and bright. So the gate focuses more on the higher frequencies, which give liveliness and energy to vocals, while the 1 or 2 focuses more on the slightly bit heavier elements of the vocals, so they sound a bit more full-bodied, if you will. And now for the final ranking of the 1 or 2, and it gets C+, the same grade as the Tangsu 1 because kind of just the same IEM in a way, with a chance of it being a bit brighter in some units. You should only buy if you know you love a vocal-centric kind of tuning, or you want to experience what a vocal-centric tuning sounds like, and you don't already own the original 1, or if you do own the original, you want the quality of life upgrades that comes with the 1 or 2 version. And that's it. Peace.